Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Joe Rogan had on Adam Sandler, and Rogan said to Sandler, "It's so funny because your films get loved by the public and hated by critics and losers recording podcasts in their basement. It's so hilarious. Like, whatever the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is for your films, it means zero, nothing. It's only the audience what counts because your films are so fun and so silly and, in my opinion, so underappreciated." Really, Joe Rogan? In my opinion, they are overappreciated. Sandler said, "I always wanted to get into the movies because I was effing nuts, cocky as crap in my own weird way. I think a big thing that happened to me is I told my friends in high school I was going to be big, and I had to do it." They talked about a whole bunch of things. I want to thank Dillon, who's an active member in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Feel encouraged to join us, who put this on my radar. I was sitting on the beach, and I checked the group, and I was like, oh, and I listened to it on the beach. So thank you, Dillon. I found it a very nice listen. They started talking about Van Halen. So you had a guy from Long Island and Adam Sandler talking about Van Halen. That is in my sweet spot, so I was enjoying that. Rogan, super comfortable in his zone. This was like Rogan at his best because they were just deep diving into comedy, and those are always the best conversations on the Joe Rogan Experience. Weird move by Adam Sandler. At one point, he's telling a story, and I think he seriously said to Joe Rogan, "Do you know Sarah Silverman?" And Rogan was like, yeah, I've heard of Sarah Silverman. It was like, that's not an obscure person to mention, Adam. It was kind of weird. They talked about The Slap. Rogan said, "I think it was the best thing that ever happened to Chris Rock because then his stand-up became wild again. It became outrageous." As for Will Smith, Joe Rogan says he probably wakes up in the morning and goes, "Why did I do that?" Rogan talked about his own special on Netflix. That one, no good buzz on that at all. Saying, when Netflix said they want to do a live special with me, at first I was like, F that, I don't want to do that. And I said no, and I told my manager, and I was like, no. I called her on the phone, and I was like, what? But after thinking a bit, Rogan says, I was driving home, and I was like, why are you scared to do that, you bleeping pussycat? As I was driving home, I was thinking, and when I got home, I called her back, and I said, don't say no yet, let me think. The next day, I said, all right, I'm going to do this. She was like, are you sure? And I go, yeah, I'm going to do it because I'm scared of it. I was effing terrified. Adam Sandler told a story about his interaction with the late Chris Farley, saying Farley one time hugged Adam Sandler so tightly and made his bones crack. You know who did that to me? Farley. We were in the hallway on SNL out of nowhere. Oh no, we were at a hotel, and he came at me real fast, grabbed me, put me in some hold, and pulled hard. I felt every part of my body crack. It's a great listen if you want to check that out. Craig Ferguson tweeted he's got Robert Smigel on, which is great. I have added that to my download queue. Craig tweeted, Robert Smigel, along with Conan, was one of the architects of anarchy on late-night television. From Triumph to his insane cartoons on SNL, his body of work is legendary. I love spending time with him. I think you will too. I'm looking forward to that one. I had kind of checked out on Craig's podcast, wasn't really feeling it, and I like Craig a lot to the point where he's playing the local theater, and I asked my daughter to get me tickets, so I'm hoping to go see Craig. Ellen DeGeneres is recording her final specials for Netflix tonight and tomorrow at the Orpheum Theater in Minneapolis. Closer magazine said at one of Ellen's recent shows, she got candid about the isolation she felt when she got kicked out of Hollywood for being mean. She joked about how she scared people constantly on set and realized later it could come off as terrorizing them. She brought up a specific story about an employee named Amber and her fear of snakes. Ellen says, so sometimes before they came into my office, we'd hide rubber snakes in a panel on a ceiling, and I had a button I could push to leave that to drop out on top. Again, hearing myself say this, and then she trailed off. She recalled making headlines that she was the most hated person in America after previously being the celebrity that fans most wanted to babysit their child. She didn't think she would be able to return to the stage to talk about what happened. She said the experience is painful and sad, and it caused her to lose her sense of humor. Tim Dillon is scheduled this weekend to tape his mystery political talk show styled special for Netflix. Still no real details about it, including, at the time of this recording, where Dillon's even recording it. On Gossip Corner, Bethany Frankel has apologized to John Mulaney for skipping John Mulaney's Hamptons comedy show. All right, what's the deal here? Bethany from The Real Housewives of New York City explained on TikTok, boy, there's a combination of things I have no interest in. She talked that she was grateful to be invited to his show on Saturday and had planned on bringing a friend with her, but explained because of something that happened the day before, I was having social anxiety. She says her team reached out ahead of the show to let Mulaney know she wouldn't be able to make it, but the message never got to the people in charge of seating. Imagine having, what is this world where, like, you have a team that has to tell John Mulaney you're not coming to the show? What world is this? During the show at the Montauk Point Lighthouse, which was held in support of the Montauk Historical Society, 2 front row seats remained vacant with her name on the seat signs. She said, "That's probably very distracting, especially doing stand-up, and I'm sorry, and I think you're so talented, and I love stand-up comedy. I hope I get to make it next time, but I'm embarrassed." A source told Page Six that Birbiglia opened for Mulaney and made a joke, "Good evening, everybody," but Bethany Frankel. Apparently the entire audience went crazy for that one. Sebastian Maniscalco's publicist. "Yeah, you did your job this week." This from the LA Daily News. The big news is Sebastian is playing the brand new Intuit Dome in Inglewood. That shows tomorrow night. Sebastian says some of these venues definitely have a history behind them, like the Hollywood Bowl or Madison Square Garden. "I grew up in Chicago, so when I go to the United Center, I have memories of the Chicago Bulls winning championships there." So sometimes it's a personal connection to the venue, and sometimes it's a historic one. For me, moving out here to LA in 1998, I did all these little rooms all over town, performing at the Comedy Store on Sundays. There used to be a place called Miyagi's near there. It had sushi and comedy on Tuesdays. I never really thought it would reach to where it has in the sense of performing at these arenas. He will be the first comedian to play the new Intuit Dome. And says, I mean, yeah, sometimes you go to a city and it's just another arena that happens to be in that city. Then you go to the Intuit Dome and see what's behind it and how much money was spent to make the experience really beautiful for the fans. To be part of the grand opening weekend is special for me. He told the LA Daily News, "I've never done a full arena tour in the past. It's always been a mix of arenas and theaters. But this time around, we thought, why don't we just do an all-arena tour since we're going to be out there anyway and the production behind it is more than I ever did in the past. I like to perform in the round, but I found the round stage was a little bit cumbersome as far as me being a physical performer. I like to have some edges on the stage, so we took the in the round and made it a triangle, and then replicated that above me on the screens, and then I made the stage lower to the audience and put steps on the stage where if I wanted to come down to the audience, that's available to me. In the past, I felt like it was kind of an island up there, and you know, coming up in comedy clubs, you like the audience right there, right at your feet. I try to make it as good as possible for the audience. I'm coming out on a Vespa, spoiler. There's a whole pre-show video with me on a Vespa, spoiler, and I'll enter the arena on a Vespa, spoiler. So there's some fun production things that I've added, but you know, ultimately it comes down to when people leave, did they laugh for an hour and a half? I think that's the most important thing. Oh, so many Matt Reif articles now that the special is out. We'll be talking about Matt Reif for probably a week. The Hollywood Reporter wrote roughly 5 minutes into Matt Reif's new special. He lays out the framework for his audience. Rather than rely on prepared material as he's currently doing on tour, he'll be devoting the next 60 minutes entirely to crowd work. I didn't get to this one yet. I've been hitting the beach and then getting home late and being like, oh, I should probably record some podcasts. So I'll get to it. Oh, I do have one I want to tell you about. All right, let me finish the story and I'll tell you the one I want to tell you about. Reif says, everybody always goes, oh, you're lucky all this happened while you're still young. He's 28. And I'm like, really? I'm so tired. But no complaints. If being tired is my only worry, I can take that. Why a crowd work special? He says, well, a few things went into play. The main thing was that crowd work has become something I've been so predominantly associated with over the past couple of years. And I really do feel like I perform it at one of the highest levels. So it felt like something I could do really well. And it hadn't been done on this scale before, being on Netflix and working with a great production. And it's fun to try something that Netflix hasn't tried before. We're also in the middle of a 2 special deal with Netflix right now. Lucid is the first one. And I'm going to do another one next year. So I'm building that next hour of material and I'm touring right now. I wanted to put out something that could work anytime. And that's one of the great things about crowd work. And I don't want to downplay it. This was kind of a side project. Plus, I knew that a lot of my fans missed the fact that I didn't do any crowd work in my last special Natural Selection, which was on purpose. And it buys me even more time to figure out what I want to put in my next special. The reporter said at another point during Lucid, you addressed the fact that people take issue with crowd work as though it was somehow an easier, lesser form. Was that premeditated? Matt Reif said, no, it just came to me in the moment because we'd hit a point in the show where it was just going so off the rails as I'm talking to a woman who really couldn't even fully hold a conversation. And sometimes the most obvious thing is the funniest thing. And in that moment, it was very obvious to everyone in the room. They're like, okay, it's not super easy to make a joke out of everything. The audience doesn't hand you an alley-oop slam dunk every time. I mean, occasionally they do. And it's miraculous and wonderful, but more often than not, you have to do 98% of the work. And in that moment, I was doing 110% of the work. And I think in the back of my head, I'm thinking people say this is the easiest type of comedy all the bleeping time. And this movement proves that I have to do so much more work than they imagine. There really isn't much more to it than that. I just thought it was funny that people have no idea what the bleep they're talking about. All right, let's see who's at the Columbus Comedy Festival tonight. Tony Rock at the Funny Bone at 7, and there are 7 other shows at 7 o'clock, one at 7:30. Jim Florentine's at the Attic at 8. Tony Rock again at 9:30. 10 p.m., Chicago Showcase catching my eye, and Comedy Late Night Live, right? If we were there on a Friday night, I would say let's do Tony Rock, Chicago Showcase, and then let's do Comedy Late Night Live with Eric Boso at midnight, and then I'll get back to the room at 2 in the morning. So on Saturday, I'm going to be cranky. Let's take a look at Saturday's lineup. Why, John? Did you pre-record Saturday and forget to do this segment? No, I just feel like doing Friday and Saturday back-to-back. I can't explain why. Show started 2 o'clock on Saturday with Passenger Shaming. Bunch of shows at 4 p.m. All right, let's do Stand Up at the Spot at the Key at 4. Wait, 5 o'clock, the Donut Sunday Comedy Show. What's that? That's up my alley. That was a nice picture of a cute cat. Improv variety show with Columbus mainstay improv troupe Donut Sunday. I would go to that. Several shows at 7, including Ian Fidance. A bunch of shows at 9 o'clock, including Tony Rock. Sam Jay's at the Key at 10. And at 11 o'clock, So Bad It's Good, Killer Clowns from Outer Space at Studio 35. All right, let's do the Donut Sunday, guys. That's at 5, so we'll need a 7 o'clock show. Let's do Ian Fidance. We'll need a 9 o'clock show. If we already saw Tony Rock, let's do Don't Tell Columbus. I like to see the locals. And then we'll do So Bad It's Good, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I don't know why you guys think I pre-taped Saturday and forgot to do the segment. That is just not fair at all. 2 Israeli audience members were booed out of Reginald D. Hunter's comedy gig at the Edinburgh Fringe, says Yahoo. Well, why? Apparently they objected to a joke comparing the Jewish state to an abusive spouse. American stand-up Reginald Hunter was heard telling 2 audience members to leave his Fluffy Fluffy Beavers show after they heckled him over the joke, calling it not funny. The incident began when Hunter referenced a documentary titled My Wife, My Abuser about an abusive partner who publicly claimed that her victim was guilty of abusing her. Hunter told the audience, according to witnesses, when I saw that, I thought, my God, it's like being married to Israel. 2 people in the audience who said they were Israeli objected to the joke, saying it was not funny. There was an exchange in which Hunter asked the pair to leave, and the pair faced boos and calls from other audience members to leave. The comedian continued once they left, recounting he was once made aware that someone from the Jewish Chronicle would be watching his show. I will read this next paragraph verbatim to report the news. I don't want letters from you. The paragraph reads, after the show, Hunter said his partner sought out the review but could not access it online because of a paywall saying, typical effing Jews, they won't tell you anything unless you subscribe. That got some laughs. The Assembly Festival, which runs the venue, stated, we are aware of an audience member choosing to leave Reginald D. Hunter's performance on Sunday. The venue front of house team attended and supported the member of the public upon exiting. Now that is your comedy news for today on a very, very busy Friday. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. The weekend is very robust. There's a ton of stories, and I've got a bunch of Fringe reviews I haven't gotten to yet, so no filler, all killer this weekend, huh? See you tomorrow.